There are lots and lots of myths connected with loneliness, and certainly one of them is that if I'm with other people, I won't be lonely. And nothing is further from the truth than that, because so many people fill their lives with other people and actually sort of deaden their own receptors to what's going on inside them. And in fact, it accentuates the loneliness and increases the frustration.
We're getting into the humdrum state again. You have come here to enjoy yourself.
Some people produce loneliness by their own character, their own personality. Some are lonely because they feel different. Some are lonely because they're rootless, and that's particularly so in a place like Oxford, where many people come and they have no roots. And that's a particular kind of loneliness.
You are all enjoying yourself. Let's prove it. Come on then.
It can be a physical cutting off from people, but it's much more an emotional cutting off. There's no wheelchair, there's no actual aid, there's nothing that points attention to it. Sometimes the busiest people are in fact the loneliest people. Sometimes the most academic people in Oxford are the loneliest people. Sometimes the most successful people in business are in fact the loneliest people. I worked in a psychiatric hospital at the time, and I felt, generally speaking, that a tremendous lot of problems that reared their heads in a difficult and advanced form really had their root in loneliness. And if attention could have been paid to it earlier, that perhaps people would have been spared a lot of hurt.
Loneliness is like being in a vacuum, a solid vacuum, and there's no way out, and nobody sees it. You put on a brave face. And loneliness is like a hole in yourself, like you're hollow. Some people go under, some people don't, but it's like a sickness. So if you're trying, you've got to go, leave your illness behind you, open the door and go out as if you're healthy. You come in again, you can be ill again in your own privacy. But loneliness is what most people suffer from nowadays, in a greater or lesser degree. It is so.
Good afternoon, Mr. Birmingham. Can I help you? It's Control Centre here.
No, I'm just testing.
My love, as long as you're all right then.
Yes, I'm perfectly all right. Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
I personally can't think of anything worse than not to be wanted by anyone in the world and to have to face a major trauma in life, sometimes news that people have got a terminal illness, sometimes unemployment, perhaps less so these days, a major episode in life, and people suddenly realise in a new way that they've got absolutely no one to turn to. Mother Teresa, many, many years ago, came on a visit to this country and she said, here you have a different kind of poverty, a poverty of the spirit, of loneliness, and of being unwanted. And that's the disease of Western society.
We were all told that being lonely and is a big weakness. And so picking up the phone to make that initial step, like say, hi, I'm here and I'm lonely, help me, is very difficult. Oh, hi,
Hello, Chris.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Just make some hot water for some coffee, yeah. Go on, sit down.
Sounds about right.
When I was very young at school, and like everyone was just starting to go out with girls and stuff, I mean, I felt very left out and very upset and hurt in those cases. But as I got older, got more used to those sort of situations, it just sort of manifested in a type of illness, like stomach complaints sort of thing. Nothing's too severe, but I mean, after a traumatic evening or whatever, I just felt really quite bad about the evening and physically didn't feel too well. I felt really all I wanted to do was just like sit down and do nothing, which is like exactly what you got to try and avoid doing. If you don't admit to being lonely, no one knows that you're lonely, so they leave you alone. It's a bit catch-22, you know?
I tried in 1982 to establish Archway really in response to a very obvious need that I felt was there. But I did not wait for committees, I did not wait for funding, I did not wait for approval from some unknown faceless people who may felt that they had some sort of comment to make about it. I felt that if there was a need and I had some resources, then I should set about meeting it. I wondered if we'd reach a peak and then tail off, but the level of demands continued and escalated. Do you find the evenings pretty difficult? I know that it seems to be evenings when you telephone more than during the daytime. Is that so, or?
Evenings, yes, definitely.
What happens in the evenings to make them so tough? Is it the thought of the night ahead of you, or they're just...
Well, if I got something to look forward to for the following evening, I'm okay. Same as tonight, I've got the Archway tomorrow.
Yeah.
Weekends are pretty dismal. And, you know, I've never been alone before. Never. Not even before I was married. I lived with my widowed mother. I mean, a divorce is terrible. Bereavement you can accept. With divorce, you just know that that person is still around but doesn't want you. I feel unloved. No affection. Empty. Empty chairs.
I came home from work. It was a Tuesday. I'll never forget it. I remember that. It was the 22nd of September. I got a very good memory for this. And my daughter said to me, Mum, Dad's gone. And I said, you mean gone up heading for some fags? No, she said, he's gone. And I said, well, where do you mean gone? I said, his car's here. No, she said, that's the shooting brake. His car's in the garage. That was his other car. She said, go in the bedroom. There's nothing there. I went in there. There was a pile of ash on the floor. We tipped the ashtray and about one old tie hanging in the wardrobe and everything, you know. Well, I mean, to me, that was the biggest shock that I've ever had in my life. That was it. He didn't even leave a letter, like most do, look behind the clock and everywhere. And I realised he was never, ever coming back again. I always said I was about sixth in line. It was himself first, his job second, his car third, his mother fourth, and his daughter fifth, and me sixth. I was about sixth. So I'm not really surprised now that I was left and deserted, you know. I'm not surprised, really. But anyway, at the time, it was such a hell of a shock, you know. It's your ego gets bashed or something, you know. When as a child learns to walk, you've got to learn how to live on your own. And although a lot of people say, oh, it's lovely, it's freedom, and you can do this and you can do that, and you've no other meals to get, and you haven't got your socks to wash or shirts to iron or all that, there's still a little bit of woman that's been a wife that wants to be needed, and you miss that.
That's my wedding photograph, and it's almost 60 years ago. Oh, he was really... Well, I couldn't describe, but he's ever so good and very, very handy in the house. It was terrible when I lost him. I just can't describe what it was really like. He was such a good husband. I mean, all the things he done for the friends and grandchildren, it was wonderful. But you can't really describe it, Not really. It's miserable and, well, it just hits you sometimes. But you could sit down and cry if you tried. Bluey? Bluey? Just shut myself up. I didn't want to know anyone. or talk to anyone. And then Edna next door persuaded me to go to Archway. And it was really nice then. I go every week. Paul sends the car to pick us up, which is, now it's dark nights, it's all right, or else I wouldn't go otherwise.
Loneliness occurs in families, in family breakup, from those who abuse families and those who abandon them. Loneliness occurs in tense relationships within families. It occurs from not only the stages of life, but sudden and unexpected events in life, like sorrow, sudden illness, disabilities of various kinds. It occurs very much with single people. It occurs, the loneliness of being different is a profound thing. People may be different because they're successful, they may be different because they're ill, but it's nonetheless vivid.
Okay.
Loneliness occurs in old age. Sometimes that's a sad reflection on society because we don't have the big extended families living in neighbourhoods that we used to.
Okay. I'll fill your orange squash up for you.
But often, where people are neglected, loneliness goes along with neglect.
Yeah, this is a cigarette box. Do you want that, or do you want it thrown away?
The trouble of being on your own,
Yeah.
you get fed up with your own company. That's why I'm glad of the home help. You see, it's somebody to talk to, or company. Oh, Archway was a marvellous club. I just about get a brown then, you know, but they're all very friendly. I made a lot of friends down there. I'm blind. And then I've had 2 strokes. The last one, they gave me 2 hours to live, and they sent for all my next of kin. I was in the hospital about 6 weeks. When I first came out, I was paralysed all down one side. Couldn't speak, but I was determined to get better. When I first came out, my shoulder was right down to my knee. I fall quite often, but it's not so bad. I just bruise myself now and again, but I don't really hurt myself. But of course, I put that down to my training because I know how to fall, you see. Well, of course, I'm lucky, really. I've got my radio, my talking book, my alarm. So it's given me a lot of security since I've had that.
Goddamn Indiana boy must have been aiming at an early goddamn star with a goddamn Blue Ridge. Handsome Andy Lawton looked down on his general.
Oh, I get around all right. I'm not grumbling at all. Just one of those things. But of course, I still got my memories, you see. That's what makes the difference. If you look at the bright side, if you let it get you down, you'll be down.
Was already running with blood.
Far too many people live in their rooms, in their bed sits, alone day after day, totally uncared for. Many die alone. Frequently there are people around here who are found dead, sometimes for several days. There are people who sit alone and watch for the letterbox and wait for something to come through the door. So many people I know actually post letters to themselves so that something will come through that letterbox one morning that means they've got to go and they can say they've had a letter and open it. I've known people tell me that they've put on their coats, their hats, their boots or whatever and gone out for a walk just so that the neighbours will think and know they've actually got somewhere to go, whereas in fact they've got nowhere to go at all.
When you're alone like I am, and I'm trying to tell you, though you're not alone at the moment, people have got your family around you, you hang on to news of someone. You're waiting for something to happen. Maybe other people don't do it, but I watch for the postman. I watch him come, I watch him park his bike. And is he going to come? I watch him go along. And then he passes. And even then, although I've been looking out the window, I go and look at the letterbox, and there's nothing there. You think, perhaps tomorrow morning, maybe. That's, you lean on somebody coming. It is nice.
What about home help? Do you have one?
Well, I can do it myself. She does the shopping for me, but I've finished with her, actually, because I can manage it myself without her. The shopping is very heavy. And the same as someone coming, like the postman, there's the telephone there. Well, it rings sometimes. I sometimes look at it and think if I can do thought transference, is it, whatever it's called? You know, ring, ring. If only it rings, there's somebody there. Even if it's a wrong number, it's someone to talk to. And I sort of make the call as long as I can without sort of, although I don't know who it is I'm talking to, you know. People at the other end must wonder what this strange person is. But they're links that you can have.
There's no way that we try to offer a sort of blanket service or blanket answer to the problem. Basically, it comes back to the initiative of the person concerned and how we can build on that and enable them to make appropriate changes in their lives so that they start thinking and working positively. And that simply takes time.
Yeah. Okay, when I worked in the tax office, there was a young fella came down with some files, and he put them on my desk, and he said, and he shouted out, "This is for you, miss," and it was open plan office. And I looked at him without thinking, I said, "I am not Miss, young man, I'm Mrs. I haven't missed anything." Of course, the men round me never forgot me for that. I suppose they must have thought, well, she's a scarlet one, you know. So that's it. But it's true, you know, it's funny being a single woman.
I'd been seeing a GP in Oxford for about 4 or 5 years, and she could see I wasn't getting much outside sort of activity. I was just working and not doing anything in the evenings, really, to speak of. So she suggested going to see Paul. He came 2 or 3 times to find out what made me tick and what I really wanted out of Archway. And I told him, I just wanted sort of friendship and company more than anything else. And he decided that I was the right material for Archway. It's really my only outside sort of activity other than going to the laundrette and things like that. I may not always enjoy what goes on there, but I enjoy being with the people. And I think people are what matters more than anything else. Yeah, I thought they'd be all of the same sort of age, you know, sort of middle-aged or thereabouts. But the age range goes from sort of low 20s to 80s.
I know. Nice to be rich and poor.
Obviously, an organisation like Archway attracts for volunteers people who have got some sense of the need, perhaps for themselves, or they've seen it in their very close families. And those people have a wonderful and tremendous contribution that they make in an ongoing sense. They don't necessarily make it by actually talking about their own experiences, but they do put their own experiences into what they say and into their attitude towards people who are lonely.
Well, that'd be really great. Anyway, you have a look at it and you see what we think. Perhaps we could talk about the colours. Perhaps the sister was saying something about softer pastel colours.
Basically, Archway is a means to an end. It's certainly not an end in itself.
What's more, we get a cup of coffee and biscuits.
Human beings just gradually come alive through relationships. And that's wonderful when that happens, and that's what I think it's all about.
It's for people who have personal problems. I recently had a mishap with my boyfriend. We had a row and he's finished, and so I come here to console myself.
It's not just coming here. They don't just do that. They do all sorts of things in the background. They go visiting, and they're there if I need them, and I did need them once. Well, I still do.
Been coming so long that, you know, I really can't remember how long I've been coming for, but I know I've been coming for a long time, you know. And in make a lot of friends here, and in a very, very friendly place. And of course, being that it's so cheap entry, only 20p, it's a very good bargain.
I mean, there's all sorts of different entertainments. And living on my own, it's somewhere to come out to and enjoy. And I think it's good for the community. I mean, all the people that probably would be sitting at home getting square-eyed looking at television.
Enjoy yourself tonight, Doc?
Oh, it was lovely seeing Paul.
Yeah? Oh,
Yeah. It's super. It's worth going out for.
You could
I've
tell
got
them
Paul
about,
on the brain.
about your giving up your cigarettes, right?
Oh, yes, I stopped smoking for Archway. You listening to me?
Lots of people ask me, why on earth take on something like this when you've obviously got a family life and I've had a busy and demanding job in order to devote myself full-time, obviously at a reduced salary and so on. And I find that question quite difficult. As far as I'm concerned, the need is there, and I can't actually duck that issue. Sometimes people think, as a Christian, that you're doing it because you're trying to earn your passage to heaven, and nothing is further from the truth. You're actually doing it because you know you're going to heaven anyway, and that's how you're going to behave towards other people. There's no point in my sitting at home here having wonderful, profound thoughts if I don't translate that into action in human life around me. People, when they're lonely, are often in desperate need, and they do want to talk to someone about spiritual needs, about death, about suffering. But if only we could put ourselves in other people's lives, in our imagination, I think we'd be a lot more sensitive.
All right, then.
A crowded environment, a complicated environment, and yet people with an appalling and a profound sense of loss and emptiness, and there's nobody to fill that gap. And that's what we are concerned with. Billy Graham has talked about it affecting Christians and non-Christians. And realistically, it's something that people talk about, accept that it's there. But the fact is that it's there in the lives and hearts of people behind closed doors, wandering the streets in our cities throughout this country. And that problem is likely to get worse as we go into the next decade and face the next century.